Hello everyone, my name is Kist and welcome back to another episode of Train Running 101. It's a little bit different, but I just got these cars from the Ironworks and I'm using the Shay here to take them up to the logging camp to do delivery. What? Where's that whistle coming from? Oh my god! What? Who? What? What? No! What? Why? Okay. I think, to say the least, that was pretty weird. I don't even know what happened to the dude after. He just drove by and left. I don't know what else to do. Couldn't find him, he just disappeared. But I think it's safe to say that I shouldn't worry about it too much. We got stuff to do today. Alright y'all, my name is Kist and welcome back to another episode of Trackling 101 this time. We're going to be heading to the Ironworks. Yay. I'm here at the oil fields because we're just going to continue right where we left off and build over to the Ironworks. It should be a rather easier episode because we just got to build track over, nothing too insane. If you haven't seen the plan, I encourage you to go watch episode 10 of the oil fields and you'll see the actual plan of what we're going to be doing today. And regardless, let's actually jump in. First things first is not actually building the mainline. Let's go over to the Ironworks first. Once we're there, the thing we actually need to do is set up the tracks that we're going to be using, and that will just kind of make it easier for us to build and place to. Just like the freight depot, this should be aligned to 90 degrees, and it is. So when you're building your track here, you can do 180 or 90, I've had 270 or 90 degree alignment, and you should stay relatively in line. Now I'm a dummy because I messed up. We have cranes on this side, so we can't just put a track next to it. Let's go ahead and get bridge 2. You're going to want to use bridge 2 to line up the cranes. Now, if it's causing you to have this little render glitch where you can't see it, just probably play it safe and extend a little far out. That is fine. So I'm just going to extend this, and it should roughly stay in line. It's a little bit going in, but actually it's because the platform is going out. They're not in line with themselves, or each other I should say. So let me go even further out. That wasn't it. Okay, so using bridge 2, what I did is I looked for this post to be in line here. But since the tool is slightly more in towards the Ironworks, I conformed it to this platform. And you can see here that the posts are just touching each other. If I'm able to click this crane, I wonder. Yeah, so the hook was just right of center. That's pretty good. If I do this one, see if it'll animate correct. Okay, so it will be in the car's hitbox. Might look a little weird, but probably actually proved to be good. But now we need to clean it up. So on one side of these docks, I want you to put a crossover just to get our placement. We don't need this bridge here, so we can just get rid of it. However, because I like to be able to see stuff when I'm playing solo, I'm going to use bridge 1 to kind of highlight where the unloading area is. Kind of create a little filler piece, best I can to the edge, then take bridge 1 and go. Kind of routine stuff at this point. We've done this to almost all the industries, I think, using the bridge 1 to highlight the areas. Now we can delete that and we have one of our tracks in place. Now we go to the other side and we have to do it again. However, this one's a little different because I don't really need to worry about the crane spacing. I can just look left at the pillars. I'm looking for the edge of the groundwork to just be touching. Once I'm there, I can just drag it out. And again, same thing is I want to replace it with the bridges, so I'm going to place a crossover and do this. Ta-da! Now we have our unload. And if you're worried about the spacing, it should be fine. If it's not fine, we do have some clipping, then you can just push it out a little bit. It shouldn't be the biggest thing. However, we are going to keep building, and I'm going to build 2 tracks, or I'm going to build a track on each side, I should say. I would recommend now maybe going to the freight depot and re-railing a car or an engine over here, just to make sure the spacing isn't too bad. Right, so now let's get our second track in place. And how do we do this? Well, to kind of keep it just like our main line, I'm going to do our mainline spacing using switch, crossover, switch. This is my third mainline method, and if you're wondering 3, there's a third mainline method where it's 1 and 2. Again, I encourage you to go watch the Trackling 101 episode 10 video. I cover all the double mainline types, so go ahead and check it out. It should be in the top right now. Awesome, I have both tracks in place, but why do I actually want the second one there? Well, it's because whenever I am running a train, or if I have multiplayer, I want one track for loading specifically, and I want another track for trains to bypass on. They don't need to stop for the cranes or impede the loading areas or unloading areas for other people. So we have this so everything can flow nicely, trains can pass each other if needed. We get to do this on the other side, so it's just rinse and repeat. We're going to get our mainline method, and I'll be right back. And it is done. I have both tracks in on each side. I have 2 there, 2 there, and we are going to extend it and modify them a little bit. But first I want to talk about something else, the return loop. Now, on every other episode of Trackling 101, basically almost every industry we've done has a loop of some sort. Even the freight depot, quote unquote, has a loop. If you take the middle route next to the hump yard, it makes a little circuit. But every industry we've done has a loop. We're not going to change anything else here, but we're just going to do another loop. However, we do have some other complications with the tracks on both sides. Am I going to do a double track loop? What's going to happen? Well, I think for simplicity's sake, we should merge them together and then make the loop a single track. It makes sense. I don't think we need to try to do anything crazy. To do that, instead of starting from the inside, we're actually going to start from the outside. We are going to do things a little bit different here by doing something called ballooning. Usually what people might do is they might just try to curve this around purely to connect up to it. But the problem with that is it's rather tight. If I do a 30-degree curve only, it's just about what it's going to take to actually get around here. We don't really like this because none of the big engines, it proves rather difficult. If you want to do that, by all means, but I'm planning ahead for larger trains, bigger consists, so I want a little bit more room. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to initiate a spiral curve to the left, and we're going to start the ballooning. What we have to do first is pop out before we can come back in. So let's do 100, maybe 10 this time. Then we're going to go straight to 50. We're not going to do 52, straight to 50, 14, 15. This is where we also got to worry about this, the actual other track. I think I can maybe put in a second track. Okay, cool. I think that will work, but it's a little too close. I'm going to back it up, and I think I can do another 100. So let's flatten this back out to negative 100 for about, let's do 10, even out. Actually, let's do 9. I don't know if this will work, but we're trying it. Awesome, that should work a little bit better. From here, I can just connect these outside, or this outside track straight to the switch, and it should prove rather nice. The curves are nice and good. Now we have the start. Well, I hope you can see what we're doing now. Is now we get to turn it all the way back to the right and do the same thing. It's going to create a balloon shape, and you'll see that at the very end too. So now that we have our flat section, we have to curve it back the other way. Again, doing another spiral curve thingamabobber. I'm going to use 100 for maybe about 10. Keep it nice and easy. We like that number. And we go straight to 50, and we get to build in shorter segments because we don't want to ruin the centricity of the curve. I don't know why 30, I'm just choosing it to be very consistent. Awesome, now we have a 50-meter radius curve, and you can see the actual shape. We have our loop, and it pops out to one side, and it's going to do the same thing here. However, you might notice that we're actually coming in a little bit on the inside of it, versus this one, the loop actually starts relatively on the outside of the curve by a wide margin. We can afford to do the same thing on this side, but what is it going to take? Well, now that we did this with 50 meters, what we can do is actually expand it to something like 51, 52. Now be careful here when it comes to building loops this size, and even at a smaller radius like 50, even 1 degree will make the difference. So let's do 51 only. Still gonna do 30-meter segments, and you'll see what happens. Okay, awesome. Even by just moving it out 1 meter, we're a little bit more centered between the two rails. So I'm even gonna bump it out to 52 and see what happens. Okay, awesome. Keep saying that. It's just great. I love doing this stuff. And even though I'm not happy with this, I think we can go even further out, which is nice for us because we can afford to make it a bigger loop, which is just going to be awesome for our bigger engine. So I'm actually probably going to do something like, let's do like 54, maybe 54, 55. Yeah, this works a lot better, I think. So we can do a little bit more. Okay, cool. Now we want to flatten out, so let's do 100. I think I actually messed up. Let's delete this short piece and do it from here. I actually might have to do this at 54 instead. We get to place our switch now that we leveled it back out. So we actually have a lot more room, so we can push this forward just by a little bit more. To use crossover, see if we can get it closer just using this method. I think that works. Is it too close? It's going to be rather a sharp curve, so we're going to back this piece up. I think we're going to back both up. But I like this. This will work. So let's just delete these crossovers and connect these two pieces. That's the first thing we need to do. Actually looking at it, I wonder if we can do something instead. What if I just place a switch back here? Oh. So something kind of interesting happens. It's a little bit different than the other side, but I think we can afford to make it slightly longer. I'm a little worried about the entrance into it, because unfortunately this time we just have a straight 55-meter curve. I'm going to do 100 just for a little bit. Let's do 5 meters and then do the same thing. Yeah, I think that will work. Let's see what kind of curve we get this way. It's going to be a lot bigger than what I was first thinking. What I'm actually going to do though is I'm going to spiral it again, negative 100, and then connect it to the other one, see what happens. Let's do 9, and then I think 9 as well on this side. Yeah, look at that, very gradual, not too crazy. From here, I wonder if I can just connect it to this track. Yeah, there we go. No hiccups, nothing scary. I think that is everything done, at least in terms of this industry. We have our nice return loop, double tracks on both sides, and to actually close them, we just gotta make sure that we have a switch joining them. Which I think this is just really fun to look at. Nice big return loop. It makes sense, and I like how it's kind of centered on the industry. It will look nice in rows extended. So what are we gonna do from here? Well, I guess the question is, which side do we want the main line to be on? I'm thinking left, just because we have to swing around this mountain here, this hill. So I think making it nice and wide. Well, what's actually gonna happen is we're gonna split the double tracks, but I'd rather conform it maybe a little bit towards the left. So I'm actually gonna use this side, I think. More specifically, we're gonna use this track as the main line. So if you're doing a similar thing or the same thing as me, then I would recommend is pick a side, or hell, even center it on the Ironworks themselves, or itself. Yeah, English. Pick a side you want to conform the tracks to. I like this one to make it easier. And the reason I'm doing the non-bridge one is because this is just for trains to pass through. If you actually want an action or an interaction to happen at this industry, they need to be on this track. It needs to be purposeful. And in case by accident they don't do it, then they have a bypass track and they can avoid the others and just go onto the return loop. So I'm just going to build this out, see where it takes me. We're not going to curve it just yet, and I'll explain why in a second. But let me just get a few pieces out and I'll be right back. And it was that easy. what I just did here is I extended this out by 60 meters and then did our mainline method, just placing a switch, crossover, and connecting it in just to get our spacing and the switch placements. Then the tracks I deleted, I just connected them back up and we are good to go. Yeah. Ironworks is set up and we'll connect the other side shortly, but first we need to get our actual double mainline over here. Now, how do we do that? Well, if I can actually speak English, it is going to be using the inside line. Just like how we trace stuff, or even if you take a geometry class eventually, or if you already have, it's tracing, my guy. Even art, you talk about this. So all we're doing is tracing stuff. What I'm doing here is I'm assuming this is a right angle. I remember building this around 0 or I think 359, somewhere around there, 360. I don't know. But really close to making this a right angle 90 degrees. So what I kind of imagine is I imagine drawing a curve between these two sides. I think to get a good distance that's not too crazy. Honestly, I think probably starting at around here would be good. Yeah, so let's first get the mainline spacing I want. Whether have both tracks be equal before we start the curve. And then start guessing and just doing a bunch of crazy stuff. So again, if you want to use this method where you do switch, crossover, switch, to get it in line with the switch stand, you do 22.2 meters. So now they should be roughly, estimatedly, in line. I can just connect these two pieces together. And ta-da! I think I'm going to do the same thing on this side and just make it one piece instead of two. Okay, cool. I have my mainline extension, and now we have to start the curve. Yay! Now, if you studied the properties of shapes, especially curves and circles, what you'll know is that the inside curve, if we have, let's say, a road, or you can think a racetrack that runners use, the inside line is always shorter. It travels less distance. So whatever way we're turning the curve, we want to build from the inside line first, just to make sure we actually have the right diameter or the right radius, my bad. What I'm doing here is I'm dragging out a long spline to see where it's lined up. Now remember, this is double track, and this is our leftmost line, so we actually got to build it towards the inside. I think 112 is fine. I'm actually probably going to do closer to 110, because even here I want to spiral curve it. But wait, how do I spiral curve something that's bigger than 100? Well, remember the kind of the essence of a spiral curve is it starts bigger and then gets smaller as it goes. So I'm running up to a nice number here, 200. I'm going to extend it out for maybe, not 13 because superstition, let's do 12. We're going to do 12 here, but before we do, let's actually get our mainline spacing. Now, why do we do this? Well, whenever you build on a curve, we want to make sure they're parallel. And if I just guess, or more specifically, if I just use the same radius for that same curve, it's not going to be parallel. They're turning at the same rate, but they're not parallel. They're slightly just off. So this is my method to ensure that they're parallel. Is whenever I build a curve, I build it in shorter segments and then add a switch to make sure they're parallel. So from here, I just simply connect these two. Now if I get rid of everything on my tracing, what you'll find is that now they're parallel and they're actually meeting at the same point. Looks very nice. Now again, from the inside line, I think I'm going to do 110. I think that's what I decided on. Let's see what happens if I just drag this out. So it'll actually be, so if I do this, it's going to be perfect, but I'm gonna leave ourselves a little bit of room so we can curve it back out with a 200. So I think 105 is good. Let's do 40 meter segments and see what happens. Great. That looks roughly about it in terms of just double track spacing, kind of just eyeballing it. But we can make this a little bit more accurate. The real reason I did this is to get the spacing for over here, this rail. What I'm going to do now is just simply extend it to this point. Just try to line it up as best I can. So about here. Cool. What I can then do is get a switch and, would you believe it, do our double mainline spacing again. Again, the reason for this is to ensure the spacing is good and that they're parallel. And what I should find out is I kind of overshot it by a little bit. So now I am going to go, I think, just a little bit out. Okay, so we have our little piece in here. I'm gonna build a little bit of a bigger piece out in case I delete this one. Now, what can we do here? Well, I can actually get rid of this and do some... Well, actually, we'll see. Grain of salt here. What I'm going to try to do is use the Freeform tool. But first, I'm going to build a 200 meter segment, 12 meters long. So negative 200, let's go to it. 12 meters out. Now let's just try connecting it freehand. Probably going to show it on rows extended real quickly to see what it looks like. It looks fine, but I have a feeling that it gets rather sharp there. Let's take a look at it on extended. Okay, yeah, so if you look, the curve I'm standing on is the one I did at negative or 105 meter radius, and now it's gone. The one I just placed is the Freeform, and you can see it's a lot broader on the center and more narrow on the exits. We don't want this. We want the opposite. We want it broader on the exits and narrower at the center. It makes it the smoothest for trains when they run. So let me just close extended real quickly and let's actually fix it. We deleted that piece. Now we can do the same thing, is we just need to find the radius. And this is where a lot of trial and error comes in. You can kind of see I'm not doing anything fancy. I didn't plan this out and get specific measurements and stuff. It's problem solving. So we have to just figure out what is going on and figure out what the problem is. Now, unfortunately, it seems like it's between 103 and 104. So I'm going to be inclined to start 104 first. I think 50 meters, that'll be fine. And we're just going to build it close enough to where we can just auto connect it, and it should keep the centricity roughly. That was 50, that was 40. Yeah, if I connect it now, see, it looks a lot smoother. And if I go around the curve, it works. I actually think I'm going to do 103 here instead of 104. Yeah, not that. So let's do 103 for a little bit and then connect it. Yeah, there we go. So looks a little bit better, a little bit more even. And now we get to do the fun part, is figuring out how to actually connect the other part of the curve. If you did or didn't do it, I'm going to get rid of the scaffolding now because we don't need this anymore. That was just to get our distance away for this curve. It's nice and big. It should be more than enough for all the engines. What I need to do for each segment is create a double mainline spacing again. Just kind of draw things out. So we have our link here. You find the next link. I guess you can say it was the missing link. Ha! And this is why I play a train game. Okay, I just got my mainline spacing again. Again, 22.2 lines up with the stand, so now they should be even. I can connect the line here. It looks fine, and I actually made a boo-boo. Remember, splines have directions, and when we built the curve over here, we built it left to right, and that one I just placed right to left. It makes it, in fact, not parallel, so I need to reconnect it left to right. Now they should truly be parallel curves, and I think there might have been a difference visually between them, but now I know they're exactly parallel. Now I also know, gonna break the fourth wall here, that not too many people maybe have the patience and sort of just be like, why do that? That's a little too much, right? I actually just created a 3-point switch, didn't I? The more you know. If you didn't want to do this switch method where you place a switch and do the double mainline thing, with this spacing specifically, if you do a switch, crossover switch, it is 4 meters offset side to side. So I was at 103 here. If I go to 107, if I drag this out, what you might find is that it almost lines up. It's a little bit short. It's really like 4.25 meters offset, but we can't get that quarter interval. So just kind of have to do what we do. Might do 108 instead, and then 107, and you can see it's a little bit better lined up. So you can try 4 or 5 meters offset instead of doing switches, and it should still roughly be parallel with the other curve. It just might be a little bit, let's say, finicky. It just won't be as perfect, but it'll be rather really close. All right, so I just got my next link in place. I can just do that, connect it, and again we have more parallel curve. From here though, this one's a little bit simpler. All I have to do now is just build a 200 meter segment. I'll do 204. I don't think I need to do a switch for this because I am lazy now. I just want to get this done as well. So 200, Let's go 204. We did it for what, 12 meters? So it looks roughly parallel on both sides. And now if I connect it again from right to left, or my bad, left to right, what you should notice is that both the curves are parallel. And this is how you can do, well, one, double mainline curves kind of extensively. You can either just build in shorter segments and then place a switch, and get your spacing every time. Or, at least with this method, you can offset it by 4 to 5 meters in both directions. Alright, great. Now what? Well, I'm thinking, I kind of want to put in a crossover, but then I'm like, wait, why? There's a loop. So we actually don't need to do that. Instead, what I'm actually going to do is continue a 200 meter radius, say another 12 meters. I think it's going to look rather fun. And we're going to curve this all the way to the right. Now, we did 103, so I'm going to do the same thing. Go to 103, but now in this direction. Maybe not that much, let's say 24, and then let's flatten it back out to 200. Awesome, that looks rather fun. Sometimes I feel like I'm building model railroads. Probably because the inner child in me says so. But I feel like I'm building model railroads. Makes me smile. It's very fun. Now here I'm just kind of eyeballing it. Not gonna lie to you, I'm eyeballing it. I think here. Nope. Still rather short. We need to go a little bit farther out. I think, yeah, that will work. Let's delete these 2 short splines and make one bigger one. It'll make our game run smoother. Connect, and now we can just connect these 2. And ta-da! She is done. That's it. That's our Ironworks industry, all done and dusted. Got a curve in place from the oil fields, curves right around the hill. They both split off in their own direction. We have switches for the bypass tracks and then the loading areas into a return loop, and then come back the other direction. You can do the same thing. That was it. It's rather easy. We have a lot more space this time. I think it was actually easier than the oil fields. And yeah, let's just go look at it in rows extended and see how it turned out. And that is as smooth as butter. Look at that. It's just so good. It's actually rather simple, and it looks so fun. Oh, that was weird. It just looks so fun to look at. It's really satisfying. I just love the curves, the radius, all that. Everything just looks good. I definitely think it's actually a little bit easier than the oil fields last time. But yeah, now we have our little branch line connected. I think it's going to prove fun for our train running. It's like, instead of just cheating it and taking a shortcut over, we have to go through one of the industries and have some kind of interaction. It might prove fun for multiplayer, because then you have to talk about coordination with other trains, timetables, just a few things happening. All right, we're very, very close. We have the refinery left. That guy. Yeah, him. There. Yes. He's left. But I do have maybe a few more things before we do actually get there. I think either after the refinery or maybe before the refinery episode, episode 12 will probably be a touch-up episode, I think. That or episode 13. Might be easier just to build to the refinery and then go back and polish everything. I think I might do that. But for sure, we're eventually going to go to the refinery. And before I reveal my big surprise, I think I want to go ahead and touch up on all the spots I personally don't like and just revamp a few places. But we'll tackle that next time, or just over these next few weeks. Alright guys, if you made it this far, I really do appreciate it. It means a lot to me. However, not so many of you are subscribed. So why don't you go ahead and click that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. It's free. If you want to, you can always take it back later, and it doesn't hurt anybody. Alright everyone, my name is Kist, and I thank you for watching. Bye bye.